Okay, let's just jump right in. Have you ever really stopped to wonder what this self we talk about every single day actually is? We're going to dive deep into that exact question and see what we can find. So, we're going to start our investigation with a pretty huge idea. What if that personal feeling of you is actually connected to, well, much, much bigger problems? I mean, really let that sink in for a second. What if all of it, that anxiety you feel in your gut, all the way up to global conflicts we see on the news, what if it all stems from the very same root cause? Well, here's the big idea we're exploring today. That root, it's a shared illusion, an illusion that we all buy into, the illusion of I. Okay, so if it's an illusion, we've got to give it a name, right? Let's figure out exactly what we're talking about here. All right, the term for this is atta. You can basically think of it as the ego or the self. It's that gut feeling we all have that there's a solid, permanent, unchanging me at the core of our being, you know? An essence that's always been there and always will be. And this is exactly where those ego clashes come from, that feeling that you have this separate self that you have to protect and defend at all costs. So you've got this contrast. On one hand, there's atta. That's the illusion, right? It's what we think we are. But then, on the other side, you have its total opposite, anatta. It literally means not self. And that points to the truth of how things just are, how nature actually works, completely separate from what we believe about it. It's like shifting from our personal story to just reality. Okay, so if this self is an illusion, let's do some investigating. And the most logical place to start is the most solid, tangible thing we've got, our own body. Can we find a permanent me in there? Let's find out. Just ask yourself this. Seriously, is the body you're in right now the same one you had when you were, say, 5 years old? The answer is, well, it's obviously no, right? Not even close. Practically every cell in your body has been replaced. I mean, look at the timeline of a life. We go from being a child to an adult, then an elder, and eventually our body just dissolves back into the elements. There is never a single moment where it's just static, permanent. It's just a constant, undeniable process of change. And get this change isn't something that happens in big chunks, like every decade. Nope, it's happening every single second, with every single breath you take. So the big takeaway here is pretty clear. Our body, the most solid part of us, is in constant flux. It just can't be that permanent self we're looking for. All right, so if the permanent me isn't in the body, well, the next logical place to look is the mind, right? Let's dig in there. So what about all that stuff going on inside? You know, our thoughts, our feelings, all the joy and sadness. Surely that's the real unchanging me. It has to be, right? Well, let's take a closer look. What are feelings really? They're just reactions to things, right? They pop up because something else happened. Think about it. You can't just order yourself to be happy or stop being sad and have it work. And honestly, so much of our suffering comes from trying to do exactly that, trying to grab onto happiness and shove away the pain. There's this fantastic metaphor that really nails it. It describes emotions as being like clouds floating through the sky. They just appear, hang out for a bit, and then drift away, all by themselves. You aren't the cloud. You're the vast open sky that the clouds are passing through. So it turns out our mind is just like our body. It's not some solid thing. It's a process, a constant flow. There's no little thinker person sitting at a control desk in your brain pulling the levers. And that's a huge insight, because if our body is always changing and our mind is always changing, then where on earth is this fixed, solid me we're so sure about? Okay, so realizing that you aren't your body or your mind, that can feel a little weird, right? Like the rug's been pulled out from under you. But what if? What if that understanding is actually the key to real freedom? Let's explore that. This brings us to the big practical question, because clinging to this idea of a self is a habit we've had our entire lives. It's totally automatic, like breathing. So how in the world do you quit a habit that you don't even know you're doing most of the time? The answer is really interesting and kind of counterintuitive. You don't fight the system. You don't try to crush it. You replace it. You build a new automatic system to override the old one. So how do you do that? It's basically a three-step process. Step one, just start noticing the habit. See that automatic clinging to I, me, mine as it happens. Step two, You intentionally think about the truth. You consistently remind yourself, you observe, that everything is changing. Everything is impermanent. And step 3, and this is the most important part, you just repeat again and again and again. You keep doing it until this new perspective becomes second nature.
And this is a really important point. This is not about self-destruction or denying that you exist. The goal is not to destroy your body or mind. It's about destroying a wrong view, the mistaken belief that there's some permanent self hitched to them. And the result of all this? What's the payoff? It's true freedom. It's a kind of deep, stable inner peace that doesn't get rattled by all the ups and downs of life. Why? Because you're not desperately clinging to this fragile imaginary self anymore.
So this whole process, this deconstruction, this investigation into our own experience, it all leads us to one final, ultimate question. So if we aren't our body, and we aren't our thoughts, and we aren't our feelings, then what are we? What are we really? And look, that question isn't supposed to have some easy one-sentence answer. In fact, what we've talked about today isn't an ending at all. It's meant to be a starting point, the beginning of your own journey to find out for yourself.